Hello everyone, my name's Pete. I'm the owner of Build Limited, offering various construction consultancy services, advice and guidance. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the feasibility side of things that I do, and why it's such an important thing within industry, which is sometimes overlooked as a step in the design side of things. So I just wanted to sort of go over how a lot of people, when they've got a project that they want to achieve, be that an extension, a refurb, etc., the first port of call seems to be to go to an architect, which is obviously a very important step within any construction process. But there are a lot of people or certain circumstances where people go out and they spend money on a lot of drawings that aren't necessarily feasible cost wise. So, what the service that I offer is a service where you can get some cost advice before you proceed with a range of drawings, etc. So on a bigger project, it may be a case that you get your initial planning drawings done. Then I can have a look at those planning drawings and do an assessment of those drawings to do a takeoff. So you've got a fairly valid idea of how much that proposal is going to cost to build before you go through the whole planning process. Because what we do find is that people go through the planning process, they have these drawings, amazing drawings of what they want to achieve. They go through planning, then they get it priced by the builders, and they find that it's not actually going to happen because they don't have a realistic budget for that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that early stage so that the designs can then be amended at an earlier stage to make sure that what the proposals are affordable for you, so to speak. That's on the bigger projects. On the smaller projects, we can basically, I can come out to site, we'll look at your project. I can take basic information, measurements and stuff like that. So for example, say if you wanted an extension on the back of your house, I can come out, I can take some measurements, go through your proposals, and then what I can do is I can do a feasibility estimate based on that using standard design build techniques that would be up to current building regulations. What this does is it gives you an idea of how much your proposed project's going to cost. I can also, during these site visits, it gives me an opportunity to sort of have a look at the build and what you're trying to achieve, and look at that and tell you whether A, it's viable, but B, also a lot of the time people don't see what the cost is to do something, and I can explain that this option here that you're looking at it will be an expensive option, and an expensive route to go down, and it's not about me trying to find cheap ways of doing things. It's about making sure that your budget is utilized in the correct way and focuses on the things that add value for you. A classic example I had recently was someone wanted to widen an opening for a doorway, and they were looking to widen it by about 500 mil, but the cost of doing that would have been a couple £1,000. So we went through that and we said, well, why don't you just retain the opening that you've got there, and that'll free up some budget to spend a bit more on things like a nice Velux window, blah blah blah, whatever your extra gain is on that project. So what I'm sort of saying is there's a lot to this feasibility process, and architects are very important in the design process. They're essential because they sort of make the drawings and the details that make everything work. But their role isn't to cost things. That's not their specialist area, and I wouldn't expect them. Just like I wouldn't be able to do all their detailed plans and stuff like that. So I see it as an effective step in the design process so that you can align your budgets and have an idea. Don't get me wrong, with any feasibility, it is an estimate, but it's one backed with experience and knowledge. In that different contractors have different markups, overheads and stuff like that. So it's impossible to get anything exactly fixed, but you've got a realistic budget of where we think it would come out. But yeah, so effectively that's what I'm trying to get across here, is that initial advice, and the initial advice not just from an architect but from a cost expert to give you that information can save you quite a lot of money down the line. For example, you could get a lot of drawings done for a high spec project, over spec'd, and it's not within your budget. So then all of a sudden you've got prices back and then they don't fit and they don't work with your budget. So all of a sudden the drawings that you've potentially had done could become redundant because you need to change that design to make it work. Sometimes it's okay, you can just make the design smaller, just make the same extension just a bit smaller, so the design impact is small. But sometimes it can be things like, oh, we'll change the dormer from a pitch dormer or a hip dormer to a flat roof dormer, or we'll remove dormers and add in something else. And all of these things have impacts on cost, but also the design, because then you've got to look at the structural engineer side of things. Does that mean that there's a change on that, which ultimately will incur cost? Or you'll be on site at this point and you'll make these changes, and changes on site cost money. There's no ifs or buts about it. It costs more money for you to change a design on site than it does before. So the more reliable the information at the early stages of your project, the more efficiently your project will run. And ultimately it'll mean a smoother project, which a lot of people go on about cowboy builders and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, there are cowboy builders out there, but a lot of the time the issues are from poor communication, changes, and just a lack of clarity. Whereas if that clarity is there from the start, there should be minimal changes on site, which means there's minimal changes in cost. Again, don't get me wrong, there always are minor changes in costs and adaptations to projects. So it's quite important that you can get that aligned, because it reduces the issues throughout the project, which means there's going to be less friction, which means you're going to get on with your builder well, and you are going to effectively be looking at a smoother project. And I really can't emphasize how important this step is, and it seems like it's a step that's overlooked quite a lot. And it's a fairly minimal cost in the grand scheme of things, but it can save that money you spend can be saved further on down the line. Again, I'm not putting down designers or architects or anything in this video. That is not the purpose of this. The purpose of it is to show that architects are essential, but also there's other steps that need to be taken to get in that design process. So yeah, that's what this is about. If you've got any queries or you're not really sure on what I'm saying, feel free to give me a call on 07740 548 649, or even send me an email on info@specibuild.org. My website is up and running, so you can go on there and sort of see some more information about what we do. But yeah, it doesn't really, the project can be small. It could be, oh, I'm not sure, I want you to come out and see how I can make best of a bathroom layout. Or it could be, I want to put a full extension on the side of my house, or I want to knock down my house and rebuild it. There's lots of different things. I specialise in the extensions, barn conversions, loft conversions, all of that side of things. So yeah, feel free to hit me up and see whether I can help you. If I can't help people and it's not right for me or for you as a client, then I'll say, because there's no point in me trying to give you invalid advice, because I'm the one that would come unstuck. So, but yeah, thank you for your time and goodbye.